Trump in Sarasota, Florida this weekend for his Save America rally. Absent, though, Florida Ron DeSantis. He was doing governor things in Surfside, the site of the condo collapse that we've been tragically covering here. Here's what Trump had to say, though.
Obviously here in the state of Florida, on the other side of the state, dealing with the condo collapse in Surfside, Florida. I know that you spoke with Governor DeSantis. You agreed with his decision not to come here today.
Well, we mutually agreed, and I just thought, he's working very hard. He's doing a very good job, and he should be there. I told him, I said, you should stay there. This is not that important for you. He, of all people, should be there.
So, let's welcome in Cory Mills. He's running for Congress in Florida's 7th District. He's also a combat veteran. So, Cory, what do you think about this, and will this have any effect on the 2020 tensions that we're seeing coming up?
Well, let me first start off by thanking Newsmax. Newsmax is one of the fastest rising, and I think will end up taking the top spot in mainstream media. And it's because you guys don't shy away from real news. You guys are willing to cover the Trump rally as well as for all the other pieces. For President Trump to come to Florida, a state that he won by a large majority, I think that it says a lot about kind of his conservative movement, where it started and kind of where it's going to continue to grow. I think that the president definitely put across the messages that America cares about when it comes to the opioid drug pandemic that's going on as a result of the open border policies of Harris and the Biden administration. I think that it also is very important for him to go ahead and ensure that he reinvigorates the conservative movement, because that is very much alive. And whether people like it or not, President Trump is here to stay, and he's the leader of the Republican Party.
Yeah, no, I think it's an important message that a lot of people just, a lot of the anti-Trumpers, even in the Republican Party, just can't still grasp the fact that why are thousands of people still turning out 6 months after he left office. Now, look, I was a Navy SEAL. You're a combat veteran. We have a lot of the similar feelings on some things. Now, former President Trump also talked to our own Heather Childers Saturday about the Biden administration handling pulling troops out of Afghanistan after Bagram Air Base was cleared out this weekend. Watch this.
Well, we had it done, and I think it would have been very smooth. I pulled them out. I made it so that nobody could have stopped it, because I wanted to get 21 years is long enough, as you know, long enough. And they're going to have to now fend for themselves, and hopefully they'll do well. But I said, we're coming back home. They call them the endless wars. I hope he does well. I hope he does well.
Yeah. So, I have my own take on this. I was in Iraq during the drawdown in 2009, and I saw what a catastrophe it was. What's your take on the Afghanistan situation?
Well, again, like you, Carl, I was a member of the Joint Special Operations Command. I spent over 7 years in Iraq. I spent over 2 years in Afghanistan. I'm not about meeting arbitrary timelines or trying to set false, political optic narratives, which is what the Biden administration has done. I am all for ending these endless wars. I think that our goal and our achievements in Afghanistan was to go ahead and rid it from being a safe haven of terrorism. That had been done. Our job is not to build democracies amongst countries. We have put trillions of dollars in there. And I agree fully with President Trump's original thing with CENTCOM Commander McKenzie to pull out. However, I don't agree with the Biden administration's take to spend billions and billions of dollars more to go ahead and reinforce these bases for the Afghan military after the trillions we've already spent in, while pulling out troops at the same time in an arbitrary timeline. Again, I think this puts our troops at risk, and I think that it's time for the Afghan government to lead themselves.
Yeah, we used to fight wars based on going home when the enemy was dead, but I guess now it's about, hope and change and things like that. The thing is, you and I have both seen this. You turn over these things to the Afghan military and things like that. They don't have the same accountability as American citizens. Oftentimes we'd turn over a base or an outpost or something like that. It would be cannibalized for any useful parts by the locals, and then it would be completely rendered useless within, a week of turning it over. Are we going to see that same fate in Afghanistan?
Unfortunately, I think that is going to be the case. I think you're going to see where a lot of the things that are worth a large amount of money will end up being sold off. The corruption of the government will go ahead and, get what they want out of it from financial means. And it'll go back to being a skeleton of a base that can't be reinforced, can't be protected. And unfortunately, without a U.S.-led operation, they haven't been successful in even repelling the Taliban as they continue to grab more villages. But again, I'm all about an America First agenda. I do not see our, remaining in Afghanistan being anything that supports the America First agenda. I do not see us putting more troops at risk for a war that we are not meant to fight. And I think that it's time, again, after the trillions of dollars in 20 plus years and thousands of lives, it's time for the Afghan government, the Afghan National Army, and the Afghan National Police to step up and start doing what they were trained to do.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. But during his rally on Saturday, the former president defended the 4th of July, and this is something that's near and dear to both of us, and I think a lot of folks. He denounced the cancel culture, this anti-American movement, this sentiment that we see coming from these activist groups. They're trying to destroy American symbols. Take a listen.
It will not be canceled, by the way. It will be canceled. And we will teach young people across the country that George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, John Hancock will forever be American heroes.
The cancel culture is going way too far, I think, obviously. But you know, you're running for Congress. If you get into Congress and they are going to try to cancel things, there's going to be more bills. What do you say about these people who are trying to take away the founding principles of this country?
Well, let me first just go ahead and say the first thing that I would cancel is this entire idea or ideology of critical race theory trying to enter into our education, our military. It's divisive rhetoric. We saw this type of divisive rhetoric from Congresswoman Cory Bush and the Democrats who want to go ahead and say that the American flag, the flags that came, draped over the coffins of our brothers whenever we fought for freedom and independence, that is offensive. They want to talk about how Independence Day is a white liberty. I mean, it's just complete, drawing a racial narrative so they can continue to try and go ahead and play identity politics. When I go into Congress, I can tell you right now, our educational systems will not be looking at critical race theory. Our military will be the strongest, and I will continue to vote to increase their budgets and help them to be better warfighters to protect our national security. The one thing I will not do is fall prey to men and women's sports and this whole idea of what that means, or critical race theory and division in our country. I don't support it. I won't be a part of it. And that's the part of cancel culture I will agree with.
Cory, running on a platform of normality. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, bud.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.